Decision 2018, Election Day is here.
You heard from the candidates, now you get to be heard.
Tonight, history will be made as Arizona sends a woman to the U.S. Senate for the first time. Arizona decides, keep current leadership in place or send a new leader to the state capitol. The country's future, the balance of power and control of Congress at stake. Will President Trump's agenda move full steam ahead, or will Democrats gain control and put a check on the president? Tonight, the 12 News team brings you complete election coverage, with correspondents in the field covering every moment. And here in Studio 12A,
we're tracking all the social media response.
The full force of Team 12 working through the night from election headquarters in downtown Phoenix. This is the place for politics. This is your election night home. This is 12 News, Decision 2018. And good afternoon, everyone. First at 4, it is Election Day in America, and the Valley has been extremely busy. From thousands of voters casting their ballots early this morning, we are already on our way to a record voter turnout. And look at some of these long lines of voters at ASU. We've been talking a lot about the millennial vote this year and whether or not they would show up in force. If this is any indication, it sure looks like they will, and they have.
And for some of those kids, they're the very first time that they will ever be voting. But it isn't Election Day without at least some issues. The first real issue of the day was found in Chandler, as confused voters are unexpectedly shut out of their polling location before Election Day even got started.
And we first told you about the closed Golf Academy of America closing its location early this morning. Maricopa County Recorder Adrian Fontes tweeted around 7 that the location, in fact, was up and running. But Team 12's Jen Wall was live there and found a very different scene. She even tweeted Fontes saying the only voters with early ballots can vote, while others were told either to wait or they were sent to Chandler City Hall.
Frustration earlier this morning in Chandler as dozens of voters tried to show up to cast their ballot, only to find they were locked out of their polling location.
So far, I haven't been able to vote.
I saw commotion. I saw people lingering around their cars outside in the parking lot.
Shut out of the polls.
You know, it's so important to vote. And I got up at 5. I thought, I'm going to come over here at 6. And then I come over and everybody's outside.
Instead of being handed a ballot, Chandler's Gila precinct saw this. The doors locked, so folks cannot get inside.
Hey everybody, Adrian Fontes.
Maricopa County Recorder Adrian Fontes reporting the news via Facebook Live and Twitter around 5:30 a.m.
Last night, apparently, the landlord locked the door because the facility that we were renting from is in foreclosure. Which we were perfectly unaware of.
For hours following, disappointed Arizonans who live between McQueen, Warner, Knox, and Alma School were told to wait to vote at Chandler's Golf Academy of America location or head to Chandler City Hall or Tumbleweed Park.
We're already in communication with the Sheriff's Department. We may just go in and forcibly enter so that we can get all our equipment and serve those voters.
Poll workers who say they spent hours to finish setting up last night ended up spending much of this morning putting together temporary booths outside of the locked doors. Only early voters could turn in their ballots shortly after Election Day started.
There's plenty of kids out here that are 19, 20, 21 years old that this was going to be their career.
Also shut out of that same location, Golf Academy of America students like Mike Potratz.
The foreclosure sign doesn't look good, obviously. My assumption is that the school will be closing, but we don't know. So we'll find out more tomorrow to see if school resumes or if the rent gets paid.
What was supposed to be a promising day for voters and students started unexpectedly as both ballots and classrooms were unreachable to start the day. Jen Wall, 12 News.
And we hope to be joined by Mr. Fontes a little bit later on in the program. We're only about 3 hours away from the polls closing in Arizona, which happens at 7 o'clock. And we want to know, why are you voting today? This is a very important moment to most Americans. And we want to know what it means to you in particular.
So let us know. Text us your thoughts to 602-444-1212. Make sure to text, not call. And we're going to be reading a few of your responses coming up in a few minutes. So stay here. Stay tuned with us, and we will be reading those text messages.
Well, this is a big year for Arizona with one of the closest watch races in the country.
Yeah, the race for our open U.S. Senate seat could decide which party controls the Senate. Now, polling indicates the race is a toss-up, and we have crews at the Democratic and Republican headquarters as the final hours dwindle down for the voters. So first, let's get started with Tram Mai. She is at the GOP headquarters in Scottsdale. And Tram, it's expected to be a huge night there no matter who wins this Senate race.
Yeah, Caribe and Mark, you better believe it. We are here at the GOP Election Night Watch Party right here at the DoubleTree in Scottsdale, where take a look. Right now, it's just media, but in less than 2 hours, doors will open for this watch party, and you'll have hundreds of supporters hoping to hear victory speeches. Of course, as you know, it has been a very dramatic Senate race. We are talking neck and neck and very, very contentious with all the negative campaign ads. And hopefully, we hope that it'll culminate tonight when we actually find out who will win. But that is actually unlikely because it has been so unpredictable. I can tell you, though, that an estimated 75% of ballots from early voting have already been cast. That amounts to roughly about 1.63 million votes. Speaking of votes, let's show you who voted earlier this morning. We are talking about Governor Doug Ducey. He voted at Ascension Lutheran Church in Paradise Valley. He, of course, is facing off against Democratic challenger David Garcia. Ducey is looking for a second term as Arizona's 23rd governor. Most notable in his campaign, if you'll remember, was boosting teacher pay by 20% by the year 2020 and injecting more money into the classrooms. This move came after the very historic Red for Ed movement that happened earlier this year. Now we want to show you the political heavyweight for the Republican Party's Senate race, Martha McSally. She was meeting with voters at Chase's Diner in Chandler, trying to make a last-minute push as polls close in less than 3 hours. But either way, whoever wins this Senate race, McSally or Sinema, Arizona will have its first female senator in the state's 106-year history. Back out here live again, we are here at the DoubleTree Resort in Scottsdale. Again, doors will open in just less than 2 hours, 6 o'clock, and you've got all the Republican candidates pretty much at this point watching and waiting and all hopefully celebrating tonight. We're live in Scottsdale. I'm Tram Mai. Now we want to continue our live team coverage with Team 12's Joe Dana, who is live in downtown Phoenix at the Democratic Party. Joe?
Yeah, hey, Tram, how are you? You know, if you've attended one of these Democrat watch parties in the recent elections, it's been a lot more losses than wins. But there is some optimism and some curiosity, really, about the power of this national blue wave. Just how big is it? How strong is it? And is it strong enough to carry across the finish line some of the most prolific names here, being David Garcia and Kyrsten Sinema. Now, Garcia, the educator running for governor, has the longer odds against him. Some of the polls showing him double digits behind the incumbent, Governor Doug Ducey. Garcia got an early endorsement from the Arizona Education Association and really tried to emphasize his credentials as the candidate who could lead the reinvestment in public schools. But then the 20 by 2020 plan was passed by Ducey and the legislature, who you heard Tram mention, and that did take some of the wind out of the sails from Garcia's message. But he pushed forward. He had key endorsements from several unions, the Giffords organization. Earlier today, we caught up with David Garcia, meeting and greeting voters in Tucson, making that final push, getting some celebrity endorsements in recent days from names like Mark Ruffalo. He also had Bernie Sanders come through town recently, trying to bring his clout. And tonight, David Garcia is hoping that he can get a big reaction from independents who have decided they want to go his way as opposed to the last 4 years with Doug Ducey. Now, up the I-10 in Phoenix, Kyrsten Sinema was greeting voters, making her final pitch. Now, this race is expected to be tight if you look at the polls. Sinema has painted herself as the centrist, who isn't afraid to side with President Trump, casting votes more than 50% of the time with Republicans in Congress, touting endorsements like the Arizona Police Association. When we caught up with her earlier today, she was maintaining an optimistic posture. Take a listen.
I woke up this morning in Tucson, my hometown, and have been spending the day greeting voters and thanking Arizonans for using their voice to vote today. And Arizonans are excited to vote because they know how important this election is.
Certainly they know how important this election is. That's why we're seeing such a huge turnout. Another question we'll be watching here tonight as it unfolds, some of these teachers who have jumped into politics for the first time as Democrats, can they flip some of these legislative seats here in the state? Many storylines playing out. We will be on top of all of it. For now, though, we'll send it back to you.
Thanks, Joe. We should find out a lot more at about 8 o'clock tonight when we get our first vote dump. That will tell a lot.
Yes.
All right. Well, our Decision 2018 coverage continues now online with Team 12's Rachel Cole. Rachel, it's not only happening on the ground at polling places. There's a big get out the vote happening in the digital world.
Oh, you betcha. Everybody is on social media touting voting election day, all the pride centered around getting out there and doing your civic duty. And we had Meghan McCain, of all people. We're going to show you that. Oh, boy, here we go. Social media for you. All right, here we go. Meghan McCain posting this picture from 1984. Her dad showing her off there at the polls. And this is really a proud moment for a lot of families getting out there with those first-time voters, as you guys said earlier. A mom and daughter right here sharing their chance to go out and vote, exercising their rights as Americans to get out there and share their voice. We heard from dozens of kids at the Children's Museum downtown over the weekend. We also had this post right here, middle school voters from VCP AZ high-fiving voters in downtown. Their message, I can't vote, but you can. So we're going to keep following the social media trends, and we'll bring you much more of that throughout our coverage tonight. Guys?
All right, thanks so much, Rachel. And that brings us to today's Text Team 12 question. And we're asking, we want to know, why did you go out and vote today? Is it because it's tradition, or you just think it's your civic duty?
All right, we're going to keep this question up for a while at 602-444-1212. So keep your text responses coming in, but let's read a few right now. This one says, I wish we had a name. Be sure and include your name and what city in Arizona you live in so we can acknowledge you by name. But this one says, I've worked diligently going door to door, making phone calls, sending information. I believe this year especially, it has been important to be involved. In the past, I voted for candidates of both parties. This year is different. I hope we get a candidate that can make a difference to bring the nation back together.
And I have one. I vote to honor those who have given their lives and defending my right to vote. We had another one say she voted for her daughters. Let's see. And we're kind of scrolling through this kind of live with you on the air, trying to see which ones we can read here. You have one,
this
Mark?
one says, I vote to honor those that have given their lives, which is a great point.
Yeah, that's the one
Defending my right to... Is that the one you just read?
Yeah, that's the one
okay, sorry.
I know.
Clearly
You can't listen to me because you're looking for a message.
I can't multitask at all, but...
This one says, there will be no change without your vote, so...
Yeah, and I have one that says, there can be no change without your vote. Oh, wait a minute.
Okay, we're gonna have to rethink this process here.
This one says, we voted early in Wisconsin, so our vote could count since we wanted to be in Arizona on this day.
Very nice. Lots of early voters.
That wasn't a repeat.
No, that wasn't a repeat. But again, it goes to show you lots of people voting early, record numbers, not just here in our state, but really across the entire country. Yeah. So remember, 12 News is your source for live, complete coverage tonight. You'll be able to watch us live here on 12 News starting at 6 p.m., as well as on 12news.com and also on our Facebook page. Now, coming up on First at 4, Rock the Vote, how social media sites are encouraging voters to get involved.
Plus, long lines were the least of some of the voters' concerns in Goodyear today. A man was arrested at a polling location there. What police found when they detained him.